We'll be starting our webinar at 12 o'clock today. Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon. I'm Larry Curran, the Director of the Webinar Program for SCORE Westchester. Welcome to our webinar on getting more leads from your website. This is a critical topic for all businesses. We'll be learning from Pete Gosling, CEO and founder of Gosling Media. You will learn a lot of useful ideas and information from Pete today. But first, I want to say a couple of words about SCORE. SCORE Westchester supports local entrepreneurs through free confidential mentoring and educational programs like this. Our clients are startups and established businesses. Our volunteer business mentors draw on wide-ranging industry experience and expertise. You can always reach out to us at westchester.score.org. Now for some housekeeping. Everyone will be muted during the presentation. As we go, please submit your questions and comments using the Q&A button, not the chat button, please. We will leave time at the end of the webinar to answer those questions. Also, a link to the recording will be sent to everyone afterwards. It is now my pleasure to introduce Pete Gosling, CEO and founder of Gosling Media. Pete has a distinguished career helping businesses tell their story through innovative digital experiences. He started Gosling Media in 2018 with a focus on helping businesses deliver on their marketing needs through a mix of brand strategy, creative production, and modern marketing tactics. We will all learn a lot today. Pete, over to you.
Thanks, Larry. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you everyone on the call for taking time out of your busy schedules. Just a quick intro. As Larry was saying, my name is Pete Gosling. If you're not sure what a gosling is, it's a baby goose, and that is why our logo it's not a duck, it's a little gosling. So that comes up quite a lot. I like to say I'm from the original Chester in England and moved to Westchester back in 2008. And I'm currently in Rybrook and have offices in Irvington. So what we're going to cover today, getting leads from your website covers a very broad number of topics, because in order to get someone to submit a form or whatever capturing method you're using, the website itself has got to be good. So we're covering a lot of website best practices as well as how to actually facilitate the lead generation. So that looks like this. You've got to make a good first impression. You only have a few seconds for someone to actually dig deeper into your website. It's so easy to just open another tab and go somewhere else. Once they're on the site, you need to remove any friction. You've got to make it really easy for them to navigate around the pages and find the information that they're looking for. And then ultimately you have to capture leads. So you have to give them enough incentive or confidence to submit their information to you. And then it's a never-ending improvement cycle, really. A good website is never finished. It's something I always say. You've got to be looking at the analytics, seeing what's working, trying to figure out how you can improve it, and repeat. So I'm going to start by talking about what is a lead. It can mean a lot of different things to different businesses. So we've got a graphic here. Basic idea of this graphic is if you think about a traditional marketing funnel from top to bottom, people who don't know you, called strangers here, they're sort of, there's a lot of them, and you want to try and attract them into your world, right? You want to bring them to your website. And you do that through advertising or producing blog content, SEO obviously is a big piece of drawing people to your website. Once they're on your website, they're considered visitors. So they might hit a page or two and then disappear. In order for them to become a lead, they need to take some kind of action where you're then able to follow up with them. So traditionally, or most often, that's a form, whether it's a contact form or form for someone to access a piece of content. We'll talk more about that specifically later. But a lead is really, they're giving you their information so that you can then reach out to them and provide more information about your business and services. The last two pieces we're not going to really talk about, but just to finish this out, once they're customers, well, hopefully they become customers. Once they're leads, you work to make them a customer, following up through email or phone calls or whatever it might be. And then once they are a happy customer, you want to make them promoters. And surveys and monitoring social are like really good methods there, but we're going to focus on that orange circle in the middle today. So different types of leads, and I'm not going to spend long on this, but basically a lead can be many different things. Following someone on your social media, someone follows you on your social media account for your business is a lead, because now they will get your content pushed out to them in their news feeds. Further down this funnel, this traditional terms, marketing qualified, is when someone's actually taken a more significant action. So maybe they've signed up for a webinar like you guys have today, or downloaded an ebook. And then you make your way down and it gets more and more focused on the actual sale. So maybe they've requested a demo, they want to get pricing, or actually if it's a consumer focused business, adding something to their shopping cart and then ultimately checking out or doing a deal. All of that really is just to say the user experience on your website is paramount to the success. So everything you're going to be doing and learning about today is really about how to improve the user experience so that they are confident and happy to be working with you or potentially working with you. So if you Google user experience, you're going to get a lot of horrible, complicated looking things. And while there is huge amounts of value in all of the research and studies on user experience, and there's a whole industry around it, really all you're doing is putting yourself in the shoes of a potential customer. It's difficult because it's your website and you probably built it yourselves, but you need to navigate your site as if you are seeing it for the first time. And you really need to know who your customer is. So understanding, either if you are an established business, you can look at your best customers and try and identify the types of people that you want to find more of. And if you're a new business, then that's really more like the market research or research studies that you can do as part of, like, when you're putting business plans together. You should be identifying who your target audience is. So you want to sit at your desk and pretend to be one of these, whoever the audience is, and navigate your site for the first time, as if it's the first time. So you load up the page and you got to make a good first impression, right? You only have a couple of seconds to really capture someone's attention. But what I want to talk about here is the home page, of course, is what everyone thinks of as the first page. But there are lots of pages that can be the first introduction to your brand. So your website really is your most important marketing asset, because you tend to drive traffic to your website no matter what the marketing activity is that you're doing. So if you're doing paid ads or just social media posts, you tend to want to get people onto your website. So the homepage, if someone types it in the browser, or maybe they're clicking through from a listings or review website, the homepage is critical, tends to be the most highly trafficked page. So you do want to spend, well, you need to focus on the homepage to start with, but you don't want to neglect other opportunities that you have with other pages. So what I mean by that is, with actual campaigns, so say you're actually doing paid ads or even a promotion just on social media, where you could be offering a discount, or like the example in the middle here, offering a piece of content for someone to download. Ideally, you have dedicated landing pages for those things for a number of reasons, but the main thing is focus. So when someone clicks through to your site, you want to make sure that there's the least amount of distraction as possible. So you don't have too many links and too many different messages, especially when it's coming from a campaign, because you want to be able to measure the effectiveness of that campaign, and you want to make sure that they don't get distracted and disappear. So campaign landing pages are important when you are starting to get a bit more professional with the marketing that you're delivering. A really big one, though, is most people are putting together blog content. So if people are searching for a certain topic, your blog comes up and they come to your site through the blog. It's amazing how many people don't include call to actions on their blog. So at the end of every post, ideally, you can make the post itself relevant to your services and just have a sentence explaining how you can help with the topic that you just talked about in the blog. And then also there's loads of space on the page. So on the right-hand side, you can have content for people to download, sign up for your newsletter, and so on. So one thing you can do here is go into Google Analytics or whatever you have for analytics. Some of these other website platforms like Shopify and Squarespace have analytics built in as well. Ultimately, you want to see which pages are getting traffic or entrances or landing pages, whatever the terminology of the platform. And then make sure that your highest trafficked pages have really good call to action to either download a piece of content or get in touch or look at a product page or something. You don't want to have just a dead end. When they finish reading the blog post, there's nothing else for them to do. Another mistake a lot of people make is just being overly complicated and trying to be too cute or smart with their messaging. This example here is from a company called databox.com. I just love the simplicity of it. It's just a screenshot of their platform in a nice representation of it. Build dashboards and track performance from everywhere. You know exactly what it is that this software does. You don't want to make the user or the prospect have to think. There's so many sites where they're using industry terms or overly complicated sentences trying to sound intelligent. Just keep it really simple to the point where you might think it's like too obvious, but believe me, you really only have a few seconds, as I keep saying, to make your point. And if you know that your target audience has certain pain points, you want your headlines to address those. So a good activity for your different audiences, sometimes called personas, is try and brainstorm a bunch of different problems that they are facing that your service or product can solve, and then use those problems in the headlines themselves. When it comes to branding, we do a lot of branding work, and for most companies, it's counter to me trying to sell services, but I tell people not to worry too much about your branding. Keep it simple and consistent and professional. You want it to look, organized and clear, and like alignment and things, not sloppy, but you don't need to spend thousands of dollars on a new brand kit when you're first starting, especially. It's really important to just make sure that you're being consistent and professional on every channel. So whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or your website, the user can instantly identify that that brand is the same brand in two different places. Another big thing, and these days it's a given, right? You have to have your website look good on every device. So consumers, users of all kinds, B2B as well, just have incredibly high expectations these days. The big businesses have pushed the bar so far that if you're not delivering just basic, like table stakes quality, you're going to lose them straight away. So your website has to look good on mobile. There's no other way. Even if your traffic, like B2B companies tend to have more traffic on their desktop. But when they are on the mobile, it can just ruin your reputation very quickly. So when it comes to testing websites, it can be tricky because there are so many devices and browsers out there. One thing you can do, and I'm actually just going to quickly do it here, is if you're on a website, so this is your website, and you want to check how it renders on mobile, you can just hit F12 or even just right click and inspect. So every browser has this. And it probably will be off. So you'll probably look like this when you first come to it. Now, ignore all this scary looking stuff on the side. You just want to find an icon that looks like this mobile device here. And if you click that, it then gives you these options where you can change how it's previewing the site. So it gives you a really quick and easy way to test your website as if it's on mobile. You should test on actual devices as well, but this, when you're making changes to your site, have a separate tab open with the browser set up like this, you'll be able to see straight away whether there's any issues. Navigation. So you want to be able to differentiate your brand to a point. Some websites take it too far though, and they try and move away from the norms or best practices. I feel like the internet and website design has matured to a point now where there are just a set of standards that you have to stick to. So typically the logo is on the left-hand side, your primary call to action is on the right, and then you have your navigation in the middle. Of course, there's hundreds of other layouts and ways of doing these things, but my opinion is don't reinvent the wheel. There's expectations from the user, and anything that you do that they have to think about is going to add friction and slow down their interaction with you. Another important thing is on-page content. So typically the homepage, people think about really in detail. Every section has like a good heading, an image, and a call to action. But throughout the site, you want to make sure that you have call to actions everywhere, as long as it makes sense. So say it's a product page or details about a particular service, like a deeper page, maybe 2 clicks in. People tend to have like a call to action at the bottom saying get in touch, but throughout the content and throughout the page, it's good to have relevant buttons and links to other sections of the site, or even content that you want to promote. You want to be consistent with call to actions as well. So CTAs is call to actions, basically just means a button. It's basically where you're asking the user to take some kind of action. So you want them to be very clear and stand out so that they're easy to see. And also avoid using things like learn more. You want the call to action to be as specific to where they're going as possible. So in this example, view capabilities takes you to this company's capabilities page. So it can be tricky to think of very short labels for the buttons, but using learn more is just it's just too generic. And also for SEO, not to go off topic, Google likes it when the text that is linked is relevant to the page it's going to. Another huge thing, and it's amazing how common this is when I'm working with clients, it's like test your website. So it can be tedious and painful, especially if your website's been around for a couple of years. But if a user is on your website for the first time and there's a broken link, or an image doesn't show, or there's content on the homepage that says 2018, it's just bad, right? It's just instantly putting you in a negative light. There are a number of tools that can help automate this. SEMrush and Ubersuggest. You plug in your URL, and then it will give you a report of any technical issues. So if there's broken pages, broken links, a whole host of different things, and they're usually quite easy to fix, but it's just so important. Make sure that your website is functional and test it. Just keep testing it. You've got to click through every single link. So I remember when I first started doing web design, my first job out of university, I was building a website and I thought it was insane to have to test every link. And I remember the creative director was like, did you test every link? I was like, yes, but I didn't. There was broken pages. So then I had to work QA, like quality control, for a month, and I wasn't allowed to do any design work. So I know how everyone's so busy and you don't want to like do this tedious, boring stuff, but you just have to, because someone will find a broken link and then it will put them off. Another thing you need to do to remove friction is establish trust. So like the professionalism of your website, the quality of the messaging, all of that helps build trust. You know, you're not going to go put your credit card information into a site that looks broken. The other big thing, of course, is credentials, guarantees, and testimonials and things like that. So if you're a member of any governing body or you have certifications, absolutely put those in. They tend to go into the footer of the website or more prominently on the about page. I wouldn't lead with those types of things. And social proof is just so important. People really do respond to reviews, and you want to make sure that you're featuring those on your website. This particular screenshot is Google reviews. Every business has to sign up, not has to, really should sign up with a Google My Business account. It's so important. It lets you capture reviews through Google, but it also, Google puts those results at the right-hand side of the main listings. So if you haven't yet done that, go to Google My Business and make sure that your business has an account set up. It's very important. All right, so we've talked about actually getting people to navigate your site, understand what you do, build trust, but you still don't know who they are and they haven't taken any kind of action yet. So you want to be capturing leads. And I said at the start, there's lots of different types of leads, but you got to ask for it, right? Having just a contact form on your site, sure, maybe people will fill that in if they're really certain about something, but you want to have like transitional actions as well. So there's like the main call to action is get in touch, buy now, let's get going. But there's like transitional ones where it's sign up for our newsletter, maybe watch a video, download a piece of content. And there's a lot of different ways of doing it. So the traditional, quick, sort of easiest one is the email subscription. It's just a very simple form. I'd say every single website builder has these types of things built in these days. So whether it's WordPress, the popular one on WordPress is Contact Form 7, very easy to use. Squarespace and Wix and all those guys have forms built in. There is a service called Jotform.com, JOTFORM.com, that I'm a big fan of. And that is literally just a form building tool. They have a free tier and you can connect it into other platforms. And what I like about that is it gives you way more flexibility than a lot of the form builders that come with the website builders themselves. And so you can embed it on any, doesn't matter how the website is built, you can use it on any platform. So gated content, you don't have to go, spending tons of money on producing content either. You can very easily take some, whatever your expertise or subject matter expert is, like what is it that you are selling, and how do you answer the questions that prospects might have? So let me start that again. You want to answer questions with content so that people are further along in the sales process before they actually get in touch and they don't disappear. So again, who's your target audience? Think about what their pain points are and then how you solve those problems, and then put some content together that answers the questions. Again, design-wise, you don't need to go crazy. Just a simple PDF behind a form. All of these platforms have ways of doing that, but essentially the user puts in their information and then they receive a link to the PDF. You now have their email address and you can be sending correspondence to them, sometimes called nurturing or email drip campaigns. But the whole goal of this type of lead generation is getting their email address so that you can further develop a relationship with them and build trust and get them to the point where they want to actually purchase from you in the future. For more consumer focused sites, special offers and promotions, pretty much every retail site you'll see, you get the pop-up, sign up for our mailing list to get 10% off. Demo requests for mostly software. It's not a commitment to buy, but it's just to learn more about the platform. And then of course, checkout is, that's the biggest lead because they become a customer. So I talked about forms quite a bit. That's the sort of more traditional method. Live chat these days is almost like table stakes, a given. There's a lot of platforms like HubSpot has free chat tools. Some people like to have instant messages, right? So if they don't particularly want to fill in a form or they don't want to pick up the phone, they have a quick question, the live chat widget on your site is a great way of answering questions. Calculators, polls, and quizzes. So Jotform that I mentioned before, you can actually make things like calculators in it too. The classic one is, say, like the mortgage calculator that you see a lot, where you input your budget and APR and stuff, and then to get the results or to get a report, you have to fill in your email to receive it. And then things like Calendly or booking tools are amazing as well. So if someone does want to talk to you, rather than submitting a form and then going backwards and forwards of email, those tools expose your calendar on a page where the user can just go in and set up some time to talk. So I would offer all of these options because people have different preferences. So on my website, we have a phone number, we have an email address, we have a form, and we have Calendly as well. So people can get in touch however they feel most comfortable. And then this is often overlooked. So we're talking about getting people to become a lead. They've submitted the form or taken the action that you're trying to get them to do, but then what, right? So usually people just have a thank you message and maybe a link to the PDF that they're downloading or something like that. This example on the right, HubSpot, just for the record, go to their resources section. These guys pretty much invented this inbound lead generation industry. That the resources are amazing. And their actual execution of their own marketing is really good too. So this screenshot on the right, I completed a form to download an ebook. It's got a nice, simple message at the top, very easy to know where to download the ebook. But they've also got more information below where there's actually another form you can actually see here, but they're taking you further down the funnel. So basically what I'm trying to say here is the thank you page is an opportunity to keep talking to them. It doesn't have to, like the session doesn't have to stop the second they hit submit on that form. And sometimes it could be related content, or if it's a checkout page, you'll often see upsell opportunities. So they've added something to cart, they check out, before it's finalized, there's another page with why don't you upgrade or add this to your order? The other thing about thank you pages is for tracking. It can be really tricky to measure form submissions in Google Analytics and places where you can do it with setting up actions and goals, but it's much, much easier to have a dedicated page. So I submit the form, I go to a thank you page, the URL is specific to the form I just submitted. I know that the only thing taking users to that page is the form. So in Google Analytics, I can see exactly how many submissions there have been very easily. And then if you're doing paid advertising or other things where you need to track it and you add some code to the page to do the tracking, it's just really easy. You just add it to that specific page. So thank you pages are very important. So there's a lot to this, and you're not going to get it all done and correct the first time. I would say just incremental small improvements are the ways to do this. Don't try and do everything at once. Just each month try and improve what you're doing. So you need to set like your KPIs, like what is it you're measuring, key performance indicators. So the top one is traffic to the website. Maybe you have specific pages that you want people to go to, so traffic to those specific pages. And then of course there's like how many times something was downloaded, how many times was a form submitted. If you're an existing business, benchmarking is important. So look back historically, assuming you have the tracking in place, and see how it's been going. And that gives you something to compare against, and maybe set yourself a goal of, I want to increase this by 10% over the next 6 months. It just really helps you to focus and follow up with what you're doing. Google Analytics and these other platforms, you can subscribe to reports and it will send you a weekly report straight to your inbox. Highly recommend that. Even if you're just browsing it for 30 seconds, you're keeping an eye on what's going on. A/B testing and visitor tracking tools is a bigger topic, but when you get to the point where you've got everything set up and then you're trying to decide how to improve it. So A/B testing is, say on the landing page, you have a heading and you're like, maybe if I change this heading to feature something else, it will entice people more. You can use software to show 50% of the traffic one heading and 50% of the traffic the other heading. And then after a month or however long, you get the results and it tells you which one performed better. There's a tool called hotjar.com. I might, when we send a follow-up email, we'll be sharing these slides. I'm going to put a list. I've mentioned a few websites and tools. I'll put a list together. Google Optimize is free and lets you do A/B testing. And hotjar.com has this visitor tracking stuff where you can actually get a heat map and see exactly where people are clicking and where they're scrolling. So that's really important information for when you're tweaking stuff. So you've got like the basic setup. Now you're testing and improving and learning. These more advanced tools really give you insight into what's working. Okay. So we had quite a large number of people submit their websites, which is amazing. So I'm going to go through as many as I can right now and just give you some initial feedback. And really, it's just going to be what we talked about, almost like a checklist. And here we go. Okay, so the first one I have here, ChristineArrow.com. So initial reaction here. So I'm on a standard HD size laptop. Let me actually just turn this off. So you've got to think about, when we're talking about whether a website works well on mobile, you got to think about all of the different screen sizes that exist as well. So this is a small-ish screen, but it's probably the most common screen size at the moment. So this header area here is quite large. So I would definitely recommend reducing the height of this so that people can see the content much quicker. There's a nice descriptor here, but I think adding in some kind of headline. So we talked about making sure people know exactly what it is that you do. This does a good job of explaining it. Eco-conscious clothing made in New York City. And there is a minimal style to this because I guess this is a more high-end look, but I still think a headline or sentence incorporated maybe into this image would be a good idea. Let's see. So FAQs I didn't talk about, but are very good to include as well. We talked about adding or creating content to ask questions. FAQs, of course, is just like the quick fire, straight answers. So it depends on the product. Here it makes perfect sense talking about the fabric and things like that. On services, on the contact page, sometimes you would put FAQs. So you're just answering those initial questions, but that's something that's definitely good to include. I'm going to jump to the next one because I don't have a huge amount of time. So this is Heirloom Family Documentaries. This was playing a video before. It might be because I'm sharing my screen on Zoom, but this is nice, right? So what these guys are doing are producing professional family legacy videos without an in-person video crew. So I can understand very quickly what they're doing. It looks professional. They've got the instant message, instant download of some content. So this is a good example. Top 20 questions to ask your parents. So it relates to the product. It's very relatable. Everyone as parents, right? Instant download. So I'd say this is checking all the boxes that I've ticked, checking all the boxes that I mentioned so far. Client testimonials, video testimonials as well. I mean, this is a video production service, so you would expect. And another call to action here. That all looks very good. Let's see what you got in the blog. So I don't know if this is just a mistake, but maybe disable the blog link and make this content. What is this? Yeah, that just looks like it might be a mistake or something, but that's an important thing to note, right? So your main navigation, especially the top right, you're going to get a lot of clicks here. That Hotjar tracking software I talked about will show you exactly where people are clicking, which links people are clicking on. So that is definitely something I would remove. Okay, I came on this one before. It's a nice photograph. I liked it, but I thought at first that, you know, Sensible Solutions, I thought that this was selling some kind of storage furniture or something like that. It's clear once you scroll down that it's more of a service to help people organize, but I would definitely, I like the image because it is showcasing the end product of what you want to be, but I think maybe the copy comes up a little higher and it has a bit more information that it is a service, just so it's straight away. You don't have to scroll and understand what it is that you're doing. Testimonials, good. Let's see, resources. So very minor, but things like this, if there's only one item in a drop-down, just change this top label to be organizing tips. You don't need to have the drop-down. yeah, I mean, this could be a great downloadable piece of content as well. You could take these 12 items, expand them a little bit, and put them into a piece of content that's downloadable. ActivePure.com. So I like the branding, but again, it's not 100% sure. It's not 100% clear what this is offering. So it's filtration. So I think what I would suggest is, so this, I would put in the hero at the top. You can have the nice sort of image of people like smiling faces, right? It's like there's studies that if you have an ad showing a skyscraper and an ad showing a smiling face will get much more clicks. But I do think maybe it's on the right-hand side, you include a picture of the product right off the bat. But the design and layout is really nice. Let's see. Yeah, this is good. Featured posts. Doesn't necessarily need to open in a new window. So it looks like it's on a set, you've got a subdomain here, which is fine, totally fine. It's just the navigation can be a little confusing if it changes. Yeah, no, this is well done. Okay, so this one, LHCM Solutions, empowering your most important asset, your people. So I was on this earlier. So it's cool to have a video background, and you have like all of the components that we've talked about. It's just difficult to read, and the layout obviously needs some work. Let me just make sure this isn't blocking something. So you've got like the credentials. The logo is totally hidden though. So logo up here, add a call to action up here. I would add a, you should be able to add like a dark overlay or a color overlay on top of this video, and then make the text white. So it's easier to read. But yeah, you've got all of the sort of components we've talked about. It just needs a bit of refinement, and I think less imagery. So having the video at the top, but then lots of full bleed images on the page as well. It's just, it takes away from that first video. So I would keep the background completely clear or very subtle texture, except for that main hero, and maybe one row has an image. But at the moment, I think there's too many images. We don't have time. I'm gonna stop in 3 minutes for questions. PRC Inc. So similar to some of the other sites, move your content up. People talk about below the fold. The fold, it's an old publishing term from newspapers, but it's basically, if you can't see it before someone scrolls, it's below the fold. And again, I keep talking about it, hotjar.com has a tool where it shows you how far down the page someone scrolls, and it's amazing how little people scroll. The drop off is quite quick, so they'll maybe scroll like halfway and then it goes cold. People don't really go much further. So it's really important to have your most critical information at the top. So this is bring special needs neighbors closer to their communities. Okay, so this image, I would, because this is an amazing mission, but this image does not inspire or represent that. So I would definitely change that. So you got these images here. I would try and incorporate some of this up at the top. It's almost like you don't need this section at all. Maybe combine the top with this and put in some pictures of the people, just so you can see quicker what this is all about. So this is a lab-grown diamond company. Nice photography. This feels a little out of place. Works apart. So I think on the homepage, you want a little bit more information about the diamond. So this is showing you, this feels, it's cool looking, but I'm not sure it's in the right place on the homepage. I see learn about lab grown. Right, so you've got beautiful assets. It's a really nice picture. I think the homepage should have a little bit more about that. Let's see the shop. Yeah, you've got incredible photography. I think yeah. So I would definitely say maybe think of it more like e-commerce homepage. Like you want to educate, and I'm just, you know, I don't know the industry, but I imagine that you need to get over the hurdle of people not wanting to buy lab-grown diamonds. So you need to show how amazing it looks and show how it's better for the environment and all those things on the homepage. But you also want to have products, I think, on the homepage. So more like, you know, Amazon's homepage, there's products that you can click on straight away. So a bit of educational content with actual product information, like featured products, I think would go a long way on here. And then last one, Teca Taste. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Caribbean gift collections. Nice photo here, nice branding. I always say the top right here is your most prominent thing. So, you know, social is important, but maybe free up some space here. These could either move further down the page, or you can have like a secondary nav, but I think that feels a little cluttered. Yeah, this is nice, testimonial. Yeah, I would definitely kill the social from the header. Bit more information about it. I know you have an about page. You got nice assets and photography, but I think a couple of sentences, let's see on the about page. Yeah, what is it that you have that no one else has? Like, why should I be excited? It looks amazing. So I think you just need to add in a couple of sentences, really selling in why Caribbean gourmet gifts are something that you should be buying. All right, I'm going to stop there and move on to questions.
Pete, thank you very much for an information-filled presentation. Let's turn to questions from our audience, which I'll read to you. If you want to ask questions, we have somebody a couple in the queue. Please ask through the Q&A, not the chat. The first question is about, can you explain again the F12?
Yeah.
Where on the left side did he click is the question.
Yeah, sorry, I did that a little quick. So it depends on the browser. I'm in Chrome. They all tend to be the same, Internet Explorer, Firefox. So you got a couple of options. You can right click anywhere on the page and there'll be inspect. You can click that. And then you have a lot of options here, but it's a little icon that looks like a cell phone and a tablet together. And that's what toggles on and off. I mean, ultimately what this is doing is resizing the screen. So you can get the same effect by just making your browser narrow, but that tool gives you preset sizes for different devices, which is really nice and useful. So yeah, on a web page, if you hit F12, it opens what they call the developer options. You can also access it through here, I believe, more tools, developer tools would open it. And yeah, this little icon here, sometimes it's worth refreshing the page so that it loads at this size. And then you've got different preset dimensions here. So Surface Pro 7, just gonna hit refresh. Because sometimes when the page loads, elements are positioned. And this is just to scale, so 100%. You know, my browser, my screen size isn't that big here, but you can just shrink this down, and that gives you an idea of what it looks like on a tablet.
Okay, the next question is from Sabrina. Where should social proof and testimonials appear on a website? For example, should it appear on the main page? And if so, where on the main page?
Yeah, so it's to validate what you're saying. So you don't want it first. You're basically answering questions that they might have, showing that you know what you're talking about, make something enticing, but then backing it up with proof that what you're saying works. So it's typically further down the page. Trying to think. So the Google reviews, yeah, I would say it's like second half of the page. And then it's great to, with testimonials in particular, if you have a good number, like sprinkle them throughout the page. So if you have a product page talking about, so let's say like Caribbean food, one of the particular products, if you have a testimonial that's related or loosely related to that, include it in the page. So you have the product image, the descriptions, and then the social proof right there. Landing pages too, like the ebooks, things like that, you might not necessarily think about putting the social proof. It doesn't have to be 100% about that ebook. It's just adding some kind of validation that you know what you're talking about. So I would sprinkle them throughout the website, definitely include them on the homepage in the second half, but try and incorporate them throughout. And in sales materials too, like we do a lot of sell sheets, like one pages for clients. Always want to have a testimonial in there, and it's backing up what you're saying you can do.
Okay, we had a couple of questions about, can you please repeat the name of the form builder?
Yes. So it's jotform.com. I'll send a list. Yeah, but this one's great. It's really easy to use. They have a lot of pre-configured forms, templates. So you can see here. I always like to say everything's been done before. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. No matter what it is, someone on the internet has done it, and they've probably written a tutorial or a YouTube video about it, or made a software platform for it. So this site is fantastic, and it's very flexible. That's what I like the most about it, is because it's just a standalone form builder. It gives you much more flexibility and more options than the ones that come with the website builders.
Okay. The next question is from Omati. How many pages should a website have that will make it a good website?
So that's a tricky one. Basically, you want in-depth content. So from an SEO point of view, from Google's rankings point of view, they say a blog post should be about 800 words. So it's a substantial, you don't want pages with just hardly any text. So you also don't want just one page. So there's the sort of must-haves, right? You need the homepage, about page, product or service pages, and a contact page. Ideally, you have blogs as well, and like you're semi-frequently posting substantial content to those blogs. So we have clients that have like a 6-page website, but other clients who have like a 400-page website, because it's depends how many products and services you have. But from an SEO point of view, if you have 5 different products, I would split them into 5 separate pages rather than having a single products page. Because again, for SEO, you can be very specific in the URL and the meta descriptions, and all of the optimizations that you can do can be very specific if you have a page for each. So I'm not sure I'm answering, there's no single number, but you want at least say 5 of the fundamental ones.
This last question is from Ted. What are your thoughts and concerns about websites requiring cookies, and how website users believe storing cookies on their computer is a security and privacy concern?
Yeah, so that's getting more and more prevalent. So in Europe, there was something called GDPR that is much more strict than in the US when it comes to collecting users' personal information. It's not really a concern as long as you are upfront with what you're doing. So if you have a form, make sure the form says, we may want to contact you, or you often have a checkbox allows us to contact you. The cookies piece, so when you're building your website, you're often, it's such a deep topic, but when you go to a website, so if I go to one of our clients, you'll have seen this before. We use cookies on our website for experience, blah, blah, blah. And you can change settings or accept all. Most cookies are just to improve the interaction that you're having with the site. The issue are third-party cookies, where it's like data collection and other tracking that is pulling your information somewhere else. So the one thing that I am following in the news is where data is stored. So if you have a customer in Europe and you're collecting their information and storing it in the US, there can be some kind of gray area there in terms of whether you're not following the GDPR guidance. It's a very specific, in-depth topic. I would say though, for all of the sort of mainstream website builders and the form tools off the shelf, they take care of this. So be upfront with what you're using the information for. Don't be spammy. And yeah, it's a tricky one. But I'm not concerned. I put it that way. I'm not really concerned. Just don't do anything shady with people's data.
Okay, I'm gonna, if you don't mind, take time for one more question. For A/B testing to be valid, how large does the sample need to be?
It's a good question. So the different services have different minimums. I believe 1,000 sessions is, well, so it depends what you're testing, but the Hotjar one I was talking about before, I think it's 1,000. I'd have to check. I can follow up. It needs that many site visits before it has meaningful answers. So if your site gets very little traffic, yes, it can be difficult to do these types of tests, because you do need to have a good amount of a good enough sample size. Otherwise the test, well, I mean, the test can just last longer. Mm-hmm. So maybe the test is for 6 months rather than 1 month.
Okay, I think we'll leave it there. As a reminder, you will all be receiving a link to the recording. Now, please join me in thanking our presenter, Pete Gosling, and the Small Business Administration for its support of SCORE. I thank you all for participating. That was a great set of questions, and we look forward to seeing you at future webinars. Thank you very much. Find a cool spot and stay there. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.